A sort of quick video today, revisiting an old subject. This is my HP LaserJet 4M laser printer from 1992. I made a series of videos about this printer a few years ago, which personally I think I went way overboard doing. It was like a 6-part series just vomiting every bit of information you could never want to know about one of these. But shortly after filming that series, I took this printer out of service, and the reason was because it became no longer serviceable. The output assembly rollers went bad. The rubber rollers in the output assembly. The output assembly is the final assembly right before the paper comes out of the printer. It's responsible for pulling the paper past the fuser and up vertically and then out the output tray. The rubber rollers had finally gone stale past the point of being serviceable. The paper would get stuck in the output assembly and the printer would throw a paper jam error, and you'd have to open up the back hatch. These are the output assembly rollers. You'd have to open up the back hatch, pull the paper out of here, and yeah, it made this thing unserviceable. Well, so it sat in a storage unit for a few years, and there you can hear it spooling up there as it resets itself because I opened the door. I threw this thing in my storage unit, so well, first it sat in Mom's basement for a couple of years, and then it sat in my storage unit for a year. And I finally decided to, well, I took it out of the storage unit because I don't have the storage unit anymore. I don't need it. And I got sort of a light bulb moment, something that I'm really surprised I never tried on this before. I always planned to get a new output assembly for this. Of course, like everything for the HP LaserJet 4 and 5 series printers, you can buy a new output assembly for one of these. Although I'm seeing now there are less places selling them than there were when I last looked a couple of years ago. And also one of the places I looked at least one of the places I looked at now require you to send them your old output assembly in addition to purchasing the new one, because they're taking the old ones and refurbishing them and reselling them as for refurbished units. And that's probably getting to be the only way to stock them now. You need to get the old ones back, because you're sure as heck not going to buy new ones anymore. But I always plan to do that, and a new output assembly for one of these is like $30, not too bad. But I got a light bulb moment here a couple of weeks ago, and I decided to see if I could use rubber renew on the rubber rollers of the output assembly to restore the grip of the rubber such that the rollers were serviceable again. To do this, I removed the rubber rollers from the output assembly. There's 2 or 3 rollers, but I had to remove the rollers from the output assembly, and to do that, I had to remove the output assembly from the printer itself. And that's a really easy process. I won't go through it in detail here, but it's explained in the HP LaserJet 4 and 5 service manual. Really simple process. These printers are easy to disassemble. You basically take the you take which side is it? Left or the right? I think it's the left side. You take the left side cover off because that's a user removable part. It's how you get to the RAM slots. And then you can remove the top cover. That's easy to do, a couple of screws, and then unplug a connector under the control panel to disconnect it from the formatter. And then you remove the right side cover, and after that you can just open the door, and you have access to the top part of the output assembly because this top cover is not here. And you undo, I forget if you even undo any screws. If you undo any screws, after that, the output assembly just, you sort of tilt it a certain way and it just pulls out of the printer, pulls out as one big unit. This plastic piece right here, there's one of the rollers. There's another roller up there, that's the final roller. And it's just the 2 rollers, I guess. And getting those rollers out from the output assembly is pretty easy. Each roller is held on by, I think, 1 C-clip and then a plastic retainer ring. Like I said, I have no plan to explain it in detail in this video. This is as far as I'm going to go because the service manual, which is easily found online, does an excellent job of doing that. Replacing the output assembly rollers was part of the routine maintenance that was recommended for these printers. So I disassembled the printer, removed the output assembly, removed the rollers from the output assembly, and treated the rubber rollers with Rubber Renew. And how did it turn out? Well, I am very pleased to say that it worked perfectly. The output assembly is functioning fine now. This printer is working just great. Yeah, the Rubber Renew brought the output assembly rollers back to life, at least well enough to be functional again, and that is awesome. I suppose the only other thing to do in this video is just to run a few test pages and show you how it prints. Actually, there is one more thing I can explain. So I originally had this printer sitting where my $5 Okidata color laser printer is now sitting, with the intention of hooking it up to my computer through the parallel cable, because of course this printer has a parallel port. This was well before USB, but the problem was that my parallel cable wasn't long enough. And parallel cables are relatively expensive to buy, especially new now. So I went on Amazon and I decided to try my luck with one of these parallel to USB adapter cables. So it's parallel on this end and USB on the end that plugs into the computer, only because the cable on Amazon was super long, as you can see, and it works just fine. I plug it into the computer, I go through the Add a Printer wizard in Windows 10, I tell Windows 10 that it's a USB printer through the virtual USB printer port, and it picked the printer right up. Of course, Windows 10 still has a built-in driver for the HP LaserJet 4 series, and yeah, it worked. It works just fine. I noticed no issues at all. It works great. I know a friend of mine who his parents used a HP LaserJet 4P with a USB to parallel adapter cable, but they got weird glitching in the printouts, and that was just because the adapter cable just wasn't very good. It wasn't working quite right. But this cable, as far as I've tested it, it's really good, and I'll link it down in the description. No affiliation. I just like to I just like to point out a good product for a reasonable price when I see one, because it could be very useful for people wanting to keep these vintage printers running on their modern computers, which is certainly a viable thing to do. Oh, I just remembered, I also had to replace the toner cartridge in this. It really sucks. When I put this thing away in storage, the toner cartridge worked fine. Now, when I got it out, the toner cartridge was completely bad. Printouts had really horrible gray streaking everywhere. It was just unserviceable. And that tends to happen with just some HP toner cartridges. I've observed it with HP 98A cartridges, which is what the 4 and 5 printers take, and the 75A cartridges that the HP LaserJet 4P and I think the 4L use. They just seem to be really sensitive to storage conditions, and if they're not stored in ideal conditions, they go bad. What happens is there's a rubber wiper inside the cartridge that, as the imaging drum is spinning, the rubber wiper wipes any excess toner off the imaging drum, and I guess being stored in non-ideal conditions causes that rubber wiper to degrade and not be able to do its job properly anymore. So yeah, that toner cartridge, which I bought for this thing when I got it, and still had a ton of toner left in it, totally bad, totally unserviceable. I've had to throw it away. But for $25 on eBay, I bought a new cartridge. And I put it in here, and it is working just perfectly. So without further ado, I've got 3 test prints that I'll print out. First one will be a self-test page, which will give data such as the print, the page count, and stuff like that. And yeah, this thing's working just great now. And take a look at this. Take a look at the print here. The print is absolutely beautiful. So there's the page count, almost 16,000 pages. This thing had, I think, almost 15,000 pages when I first got it. So it sounds about right that I've put maybe 1,000 pages on this thing since I've owned it. And of course, the vast majority of that have been test pages over the period of trying to get it working when I first got it and now. That's an incredibly low page count, by the way. These things are, you know, they were designed to be good for at least a few 100,000 pages before having to overhaul them with new rollers and stuff like that. It's not unheard of for these things to do 1,000,000 pages. So 15,000, almost 16,000 pages on one of these is literally nothing. Given that the printer itself is physically not in the best condition, I almost have to wonder if the formatter was replaced at some point. The page count is stored in the formatter. The formatter is the brains of the printer. It takes the data from the computer and turns it into basically machine language that the print engine can understand, and it also controls the control panel and all the other fancy computation. I almost wonder if the formatter was replaced with another one at some point. I don't know. But there's the firmware date code, 1992-0603. This is the menu tree, all the menu settings, and what the current settings, what settings are currently set. So yeah, very good. I'll follow that up with a PCL demo page. This is a demonstration. It renders a PCL printer command language or printer control language. I forget what it means. It was HP's language used for formatting a raster image for the printer to print. PCL is a very large standard now. I think more companies other than HP used and continue to use PCL as the language that their printers use to generate an image. The PCL demo page is a nice graphical demonstration. And I love the PCL demo page. Look at this. Very nice, very retro. Really good, really nice, really crisp. The laser assembly in this printer is still in good shape. And the toner cartridge is working really well. Very good definition on this printout. So that's awesome. And then for a final print demonstration, I am going to print a photograph from the printer, or from the computer rather. So let me go send that, then I'll come back here right quick. Oh, works better when you put it online. There we go. Form feed lights up. That means there's data in memory to be printed. And this is a photograph taken with my cell phone, so like 5 megapixels or something. And I'm printing it from MS Paint in Windows 10. My girlfriend gave me permission to print this out as a demonstration for this video. But yeah, looking very nice. And you know, someone on Twitter once asked me, are these printers, do these printers still have competent print quality for today's needs? And my answer is absolutely yes. They definitely don't have the photo quality of a modern monochrome laser printer. So, you know, you're not going to do real monochrome photographic work on this if that's what you need. But, you know, for just the sake of showing a photograph, an HP LaserJet 4 is still more than competent. I mean, 600 dots per inch, the definition is just totally fine. You know, totally fine for the sake of showing a photo. Again, not even near photographic quality, but on the whole, it's just absolutely fine. And obviously, for all other purposes, text and you know, office-oriented graphics like charts and stuff, these are absolutely perfect for that. You know, from what I've seen, and I administer a fleet of modern monochrome laser printers at work, as well as a couple of color laser printers. Those printers, when it comes to text and office-oriented graphics, they're no better quality than this printer would be at printing that stuff. But they will be a bit better doing photographs, but still, as you can see, there is not at all anything wrong with that. So very, very good. So there you go. I have refurbished my HP LaserJet 4M printer, and I'm very happy. It makes me a little sad that now that I've got that printer, this one has been relegated to the floor, not in service, not hooked up, but I'm thinking of seeing if I can make some room on the computer desk there to get both printers hooked up, just both of them connected to the computer. And that way, whenever I want to print to one or the other, I can do that. Like save text and other monochrome stuff for this printer, and when I want to do color stuff or photographs or whatever, I'll use the Oki data, which I still need to make a video of, and I'm really excited to do that whenever I finally get to doing it. But yeah, you know, it's still not terribly difficult or expensive to keep an old HP LaserJet 4 running. These are beautiful printers. They are famous for their durability and reliability and their high duty cycle. These are just fantastic printers, and it's just really retro cool. These are really nice printers and still extremely useful in today's environment. You can still hook these up to a modern computer. They're perfectly compatible with Windows 10, and they serve great for a monochrome printer for office or academic tasks. So really great to be able to keep one of these running, keep it out of the landfill, and let it still live a useful life.